the country
I
entirely. I don't
know,
know.
I know. Like that seems to be the battle, right? Because I know a lot of my personal friends have taken that route, just get the hell out of Dodge. But at the same time, I mean,
We
I
are
know the
live.
playbook, right? They're coming for the world. So
Mhm.
yeah. So it's just
Yeah.
it's a tough call. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
kind of just kind of like slowly boiling the frog, seeing how much they can
That
do before they
that's the idea. Yeah, that's definitely the idea. But who knows? Maybe just like maybe standing your ground because there is a lot of resistance. There's a lot of resistance to unconstitutional, breaches of rights and freedoms, right? So there
absolutely.
is a good resistance. It's just how how much resistance is going to put a stop to what's going on. That's to be determined, right? So you don't know. But I don't know. I have a gut feeling to just stay put until you can't do anything anymore. But until that point, I think I want to, stay put and do what you can, right?
Yeah, and you
But
just resist
that's
how
just
you
me.
can, and
Yeah, yeah,
it's just it doesn't take that much. Like there doesn't have to be any violence. It just
yeah.
is like just saying no. Like no, I'm not
You know
gonna
what?
I'm not gonna do that
Yeah,
stupid shit.
yeah. It's a matter of just really just and ignoring the dangling carrot that
Hmm.
government is always going to put in front of your face to
Yep.
incentivize you to do something that is not in your best interest at some point,
Yep.
right? Or immediately. So people have to really ignore those dangling carrots. Oh, you
Yeah.
can get $100 gift certificate to my favorite restaurant if I do.
Free
Free
donuts
donuts
for
with
We
your
got
injection.
yeah, we have to be a bit have a bit more integrity than that. Come
yeah.
on.
All right. Well, hey everybody, thanks for joining us today. Yeah, we'll just do a quick introduction. We were just chatting about, everything that's going on and this wacky world that we're playing a part in,
Yeah.
and all the fun stuff. But we're very excited to be returned with Casey here again today. Mr. Vegetable Police, as always welcome on the show. Always a joy to have you. And then today we're super excited to have, and this, for those of you who have been listening to the show, we've mentioned it a few times, but we've got the elusive Eli Martyr from the FreeMelon Society joining us today, and we're excited for this conversation. And for those of you who have not checked out Eli's channel, the FreeMelon Society, I'd highly recommend it because Eli has this fantastic way of taking these simple truths, the fact that we are frugivores, the fact that fruit is our species specific diet, and then boiling it all in with natural and karmic laws, and how it all relates to what we're here to do, and how we can get out of our own way so that we can truly expand to our greatest potential. But he breaks it down in a very simple manner, in a way that you really can't argue with. So we're really grateful to have him and his wisdom here with us, and what should be another fantastic conversation. So yeah, so with that, I'll hand it over to Casey for an introduction as well, and then we'll hand it over to Eli for some opening words as well.
Yeah, it's great to have Eli on here. Thank you for tracking him down. Just how dare you work, Eli, and be busy. But no, we finally got him. I found your channel while on my juice fast, and just such
Oh,
enjoyable videos, just simple concepts, and the
oh,
lectures, the way you do it, like many things I've heard of before, but it finally sunk in when watching your videos. Like, oh,
oh,
okay, yeah,
cool.
it's all tied together. So I love what you do, and I'm glad you're doing it, and keep on sharing it.
Oh,
You have a lot of wisdom, and I got some questions for you.
yeah.
But thanks for coming on, man.
Oh, that's touching. Thank you so much. I know you're still doing your thing, but thank you so much. That really is touching, and it's because it's what I was hoping to do. That's like the reason. No, no, I don't. Sorry, you're not done yet. No, keep
No,
going.
I'm
But thank you.
just
Thank you so much.
go. That was
You,
it.
you
I
good?
got nothing.
You're good. Okay. Thank you. You know what? When I first started doing the channel, when I first put up my original videos, that's hearing that feedback. You have no idea how much what that does for me, because that, again, that's exactly what I was trying to go for. Is I wanted to just to help share how really simple the elements of health, wellness, and vitality are with just even a rudimentary understanding of basic principles. And, you know, like intelligence is, it's easier to be intelligent than non-intelligent, right? You have to actually try to be non-intelligent, but like if it's, there are simple keys that if you can wrap your head around, they dispel any illusory nature of anything else the world throws at you, right? You know, so if I have a hammer and I know exactly what this hammer is used for, it doesn't matter how many fools out there tell me that the hammer is best used as an enema device. Okay, what, like or whatever silly explanations for what this hammer, if I know absolutely that this hammer is functioning this way, it's designed this particular purpose, right? The rest of the world using the hammers for whatever, you know, silly machinations won't matter to you, and it'll just fall on you and walk away like water off a duck's back, right? You know, oh, use the hammer, you know, to pick the goo out of your eyes. No, I'll use it to slam nails, right? That kind of thing. And in terms of health and vitality and wellness and immunity, which is particularly important if people are worried about their health, you know, this kind of information, this body of information is something that you're going to want to pay attention to. But yeah, you just follow them, and you have to understand that there is an intelligence, a natural intelligence that guides and governs the workings of all manifested reality. And you don't have a choice but to follow those natural principles. You do not have a choice. So it's up to the intelligent being, wherever they are in their level of conscious evolution, it's up to them to harmonize and recognize as many of these principles as possible, as they have the ability to recognize, and just follow them and just do them, right? I love the example of trees. I always use the example of trees because it helps to frame it in the mind. Like a tree never goes astray. It never does what it's not supposed to do, because it's kind of anchored into the planet, and it's getting that natural intelligence, that natural benevolent intelligence, where the tree never goes out of bounds. It always eats what it's supposed to eat, and it perpetually gives to the world, right? It's in perpetual service to mankind. And so I'm going way off already here. It's kind of hard to stop, but this is what some of the masters in our past, right? The ancient adepts, the hierophants, the occult teachers, right? In the mystery schools, they kind of recognize this principle where it's the what brings the best out of the self, out of the spirit, out of life, is acting like a tree, in the sense that you're always benevolent, you're always being of service, and never stepping out of bounds, right? Even if you have the choice to do so. So if a tree had the ability to go and whatever, pollute and steal and rape and murder and all these kind of things, right? Even if it had the choice, it would want to still do what a tree does. And so that's the game, that's the battle. It's doing what's right to the best of your ability, and I mean doing what's right for your own body, for the world outside, for everyone around you, while still having the choice not to do so. That's what gives the greatest bump in evolution, right? You know, having the ability to steal the wallet, but not doing so because it's a violation of those natural principles, right? Not choosing to eat all sorts of adulterated, chemical-laden, hormone-laced, chemical-saturated sweetener or whatever nonsense, right? Having the ability to eat all those things, but choosing not to because you've recognized a responsibility to the divinity of the self, right? And cultivating that's obligation to your own temple, you know, and it starts there. It doesn't have to start there, but it could start there. For many people, it starts there. That's where it started for me, like kind of obligation to the self. But then once I started to put all these self obligations and responsibilities in practice, then it became easier to see, oh, these responsibilities and obligations, they extend to everything around me as well, right? As best as possible. So
yeah, we have that
anyhow,
choice. I get a lot of comments people saying like, oh, so you hate lions, you hate what lions do. And it's like they don't have our choice. They can. I've never seen a
Yeah.
lion in a supermarket browsing around. Maybe he would like some other things. I don't know. Like
Yeah.
he would obviously
Yeah.
choose to go to a place that there's always food. He doesn't have to chase down this thing and it's stressful. And his family member died during the chase. And it's like it's it's suffering. The animals suffer. Like it's, I don't know if it's past life stuff that they're working off now, like they're now in beast mode where it's like, all right, survival, this is what the hell happened. Like, so it's a nightmare, but we don't have, like, we have the
Yeah.
choice. So it'd be nice to not choose if you don't have to. But yeah,
Yes.
I love
Yeah.
your, you made a video a little while ago about like how some carnivores seem to be getting results, and it's because of what they eliminate, not so much of what,
Yeah.
like it's that whole scale you had, the fasting to overindulgence scale really simplified everything. Maybe you want to explain that a little bit.
Oh, great.
It was
Great.
fantastic.
Well, I'm glad that helped. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Really appreciate it. I'm glad it helped. Because yeah, you know, it just like kind of simple visuals, I think are really, you know, just to digress for a second, when we learn as adults, I've noticed that the best way to learn as an adult is to learn as if you were teaching a child, because that's literally, it's the best way to learn when you teach someone as if they are a child, not in an insulting way, derogatory way, or whatever, not in a condescending way. But that's just because that's what's effective. That's how the mind works well. It
Well,
works well with
and
simple tools, you know?
the truth is always simple too. You know, if someone is trying to explain this overly complicated, like this is why this has these rules and it has to be this way, it's most likely a lie. And the truth is very simple. So when you boil it down to those simple terms like you do, it makes that much more sense.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely right. Truth is very, very, very simple. And so if so for the audience out there listening, when you hear things out there in terms of whatever, diet, wellness, you know, lifestyle, whatever, if it's overly complex, okay, and it requires all sorts of mental mechanisms to frame in a way that makes sense, it's probably a bit misleading, or it's probably a bit congested and doesn't need to be that difficult. There might be an element of deception in there. Who knows? Right? Truths are very, 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 very simple. Okay, so to get to what Casey was saying about that spectrum, what I was doing is essentially I was equating. It was a scale of a healing scale, essentially. Where am I in my camera? It was a healing scale whereby on one end you have a lifestyle that is not conducive to any kind of healing at all. Okay, the antifreeze, gasoline, and McDonald's diet. All right, zero healing. And then on the other side of the scale, you had like the perfectly healing, right? And so all I was doing is I was drawing the association between, I think one of the things I did was sleep and not sleep. Okay, so if you take sleep, for example, you get the absolute best and highest rest when you're sleeping in the absence of all stimulation, as much stimulation as possible, sensory stimulation. So you don't have flashing lights, okay? You don't have music playing. You don't have honking or whatever in the background. You have no light, all right? You're not digesting food, all right? All of these little bits of stimulation, if you eliminate them, you get the highest quality healing in your sleep, okay? So you have that one polarity. It's like what's one end of the spectrum. Now, in terms of just sleep, okay, sleep quality. And on the other end, you have the exact opposite of sleep, which is complete wakefulness, you know, baking a cake while sprinting the 100-meter dash and trying to plan your wedding, you know. So a total opposite of sleep, okay? So in terms of rest, if you want the best quality sleep, the more stimulation you can eliminate on your way to complete shutoff is going to give you subsequently more and more and more and more higher quality rest. So I could lie down for a second, close my eyes. Maybe there's a little bit of music, and I'll get the rest, but it won't be as good as complete shut off. Okay. And the reason this is good to understand is because it's everybody on planet Earth. If you are a human being, you know this to be true, right? And I like taking the approach on my videos and my lectures whereby I give you exactly what you've always known. I really try to do that because it's what you've always known that simply needs and bears repeating, sometimes in whatever way that it makes sense. Because these natural principles, they echo across all scales. They are self-similar across all scales. Okay, this is how nature works. This is how the universe works. It's one of the laws of nature. It's this correspondence scale, whereby nature has used a particular formula of creation, and it uses that formula to construct all levels of being, whether they're spiritual, physical, below physical, but on and on and on it goes. Okay. Because if it didn't do that, creation would be too complex. And Mother Nature is, if anything, brutally efficient. One law, and one law applies to the whole bloody thing. All right. And this is just how nature operates. If it wasn't that way, things would just be chaotic. Okay. So I digressed a little bit. Now, in terms of diet and healing and eating, you can think about it in the same way, where just like sleep, you have this polarity, right? A polarized, dualistic phenomena. Hot, cold, beautiful, ugly, tall, short. All of these dualistic principles that characterize physical reality, okay? So you have that healing diet and then the non-healing diet. So when people, now to finally get to Casey's question there, or not question, but the point you brought up. When we see in the world around us, people going on all of these diets, cleanses, whatever they are, just these different protocols in order to get healing, you can gauge their efficiency and their potency for healing based on the simple rest and non-rest spectrum, whereby if you afford your body more and more digestive rest, okay, which approximates a complete fast. So on one side, you have a fasting state where you're just not eating anything, and the non-fasted state where you're just eating constantly. So that would be that spectrum. And in that spectrum, you can fit yourself in, whereby the more you come closer to that fasted state, the more healing you'll get. So if you're coming from a standard American diet, okay, we always say American, standard everything, standard European, standard Spanish, standard Australian, standard whatever.
I don't know why that's the baseline that people compare it to. I've read so many books that's like, compared to the standard American diet, you would not believe the results we're getting. It's like, that thing kills people faster than anything. I remember Dr. Furman's book, he had a study saying like almonds decreased cholesterol. And then I looked at the study and it was literally almonds compared to muffins. Almonds were better than muffins. Like, we don't need a study for that. That's pretty obvious. I don't know,
right? Like that information is not useful to you, right? It's not. It doesn't apply to people who have already created a certain level of responsibility to self. Oh, eating potatoes is better than showering in engine grease. Yeah, or what? I don't know. Whatever.
I'm happy to hear that. I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah. Yes, I know. Yes, now please take that advice. Yeah. but yeah, so what was I saying here? Yes. So the closer you approximate that state, essentially. So the more you clean up your diet and eliminate all of the infractions, all of the offenses, all of the dietary offenses to human physiology, okay? The more of these human physiological offenses you eliminate from the diet, the more subsequent healing you will experience, even if what you are eating is still not fantastic, right? Because in eliminating all of this and you're left with only that much that hurts you, well, yeah, so you slide onto the healing spectrum closer to fasting, but you're still hurting yourself a little bit, right? So all of these diets, you could fit them in somewhere on this scale, right? Which is why a natural human raw food, fruit predominant diet, right? Because that is what's meant for the human body, just like every species has their particular diet that's meant for them, that doesn't hurt them, right? Every species has this. And so when you eat in that way, and you eliminate all of the other offenses, biological offenses, as best you can, right? You place yourself in a position whereby you're getting more physiological rest. And when I say physiological rest, just to clarify, because I'm familiar with that, me using that term, but people might not. It's when you eat things that are unnatural to you, to the human body, I should say. They require more tax, more vital force to be expended in digesting and breaking down and making sense of what you've eaten. So if we eat what the health community has ostensibly called a healthy meal, okay, let's just say lentils, avocado, with a little bit of olive oil, a pinch of salt, some veggies, and mango slices. Okay, so your body sees that and it says, holy crap, what the hell is all that coming down the pipe at the same time? I have no idea what to do. It's like fighting 20 people instead of one, right? I'd rather fight one person than 20 people because it's just more variables, more complexity, right? So even though the health community tells us this is a healthy meal, right? It's still not nearly easy for your body to deal with, even though what you might be eating are whole foods, okay? Assuming you get rid of the oil, okay, that's not a whole food.
It's balanced.
Let's just say it was a
It's
whole.
a balanced meal.
Balanced
that's
diet,
the
yeah.
ideal. I
When
don't know
you-
why that's pushed, but go ahead, Justin.
Yeah, you bring up
balanced diet, yeah.
a good point with the ease versus disease, and this is always the choice that we have to make. What am I consuming, and how can I make that as easy on the body as possible, or go the opposite
Yeah.
direction and introduce dis-ease, where it's difficult, it's more acidic, acid forming. Alkaline is the ease. And the more we can get out of our body's way, the more miracles it can perform as far as bringing us to that place of health. Yeah, beautifully said.
Yeah, and I'd suggest to people that are new to this kind of lifestyle, to this type of thing, that in terms of nutrition, it's not bulk of nutrition that comes into the body that determines your level of health. It's the cleanliness of the tissues that determines your health, not how much nutrition you can just force down your throat. Okay. That's what the health community wants you to believe. They want you to believe in the balanced diet. For some reason, the balanced diet doesn't apply to any other form of life on Earth, just humans. Go figure, right? That's funny how that works. So this law of balanced diet doesn't apply to anybody but humans. Okay, so that's weird, right? So if you just common sense, this should strike you as, oh yeah, odd, right? Something you've always known your whole life, but no one's ever, put it to you, right? You just kind of accept it, right? And but yeah, like you said, I mean, we don't have to worry about every single nutrient of. We've only identified a fraction of the nutrients that exist in reality. The only ones that they put in front of your face for marketing purposes or whatever are the ones they've identified, and it's funny because we feel good about ourselves when we have all of these nutrient-rich foods coming in, only because some vague, authority has told us that, oh, you're getting all of these. But what about the thousands of other phytonutrients and phytochemicals that are too small to be observed, or too fine to be observed by our methods of microscopic observation, right? Because the scale goes on infinitely. Like there's all sorts of stuff you're getting from food that you just cannot measure right now. Okay. And what about all those, right? And then once we get to the place where we can discover those, we just discovered that there's like 150 more minerals, 50 more nutrients. Oh, so now you have to add 50 more nutrients. nutrients to the diet and 50 more different types of foods to get all of it. No. Nature has set this up in a very simple way. You are a biological entity. You are a product of the planet. Nature has given you a sensitivity to a very particular set of foods that are supposed to go into your body. And nature hopes that all you have to do is recognize how obvious the tools that it gave you are in aligning you with that thing, with that food, with that diet, and just do that. Just stick with it. That's it, right? No platypus is out there considering the benefits of flax seeds and B12 and stuff like that. I can guarantee you no platypus is doing this right now. No animal is doing this. They're just doing what they're biologically supposed to do. And for humans, you can do the exact same thing and ignore the rest of the culture, and you will be so healthy, it blow your mind. Right?
Yeah, it's easy to fall into that trap with the omega-3s. Like flax would never appeal to us in nature. Why is it so important? Why is it the most important nutrient when it's the least appealing way to get it? Like chia seeds, flax seeds, all these sources, even hemp seeds, like they're not my favorite tasting seed. They're okay. But it's like, that's our number one nutrient, or we have to go into a dangerous ocean to find it. Like it makes no sense. And I like your scale where it's, because I fall into the trap again too. Like we think we need to get protein to build muscle. And I'm looking across at a fruitarian right now that looks pretty buff to me. Like, where are you getting this muscle from? Why is like how I do have questions and I have doubts in my body because it seems like I get weaker on the fruitarian path. Did you get weaker? But you still, like, you're plenty strong enough. You could disable each of us in 3.3 seconds flat. Like, how do you do it?
Yes. So to answer your question, yes, I did. I absolutely went through a period where I was weaker, where I was not as energetic, not as, I think the explosive power. I think it was my explosive power that I noticed was scaled down, right? For a bit, for a while, actually.
How long? When you say for a bit,
oh, sorry.
When you say for a bit and for a while, just to give reference, like what does this time period look like?
Okay. So when I first, I was coming off of, let's start from the beginning. I was coming off of about 7 years of being vegan. Okay. But you're just like an anything goes vegan, you know how it works. Cooked food and oils and salts and all the seasonings and all that kind of stuff. So I had a good, and I did a lot of fasting as a vegan too. So I was getting a good head start in training my body to be efficient. So then I went fruitarian, and it was honeymoon phase for like the first year, I think. Maybe less, maybe about like 8 months or so. I can't remember exactly, but I noticed rapid weight loss. So prior to being fruitarian, I would have looked to you much like I look now, like just thin and lean, but just bigger muscles, still not carrying like much fat at all, still not carrying any fat really to the naked eye. But I was just a bigger, thicker version of what you see in front of you right now. And so within about 2 weeks of being fruitarian, it just this weight just started to fly off my body, like just fly off. I was like, oh my God, what's happening? Where am I? I couldn't even notice it in the mirror. I'm like, where's this weight coming off of? Because I didn't have fat. And so it was confusing, right? And so eventually put 2 and 2 together. I'm like, oh, okay. It's because there was just a lot of flat out garbage in my system. Garbage being stored everywhere, being stored in my muscles, being stored in the tissues, and the water associated with preserve those toxins from poisoning the rest of my body. And so all of that was just coming out. Okay, so how long did it take for me to start feeling good? I was always feeling really good. From the time I started Fruitarianism, I was always feeling good. The sinuses got cleaned out, the skin looked better, Sleep was better. Recovery was insane. Oh my God, I could recover after a really hard day of work or exercise or whatever in shocking time. Flexibility was better. Joints were better, more lax. I was doing my flexibility drills without, without having, sorry, I should say I could do like splits, things like splits after a period of not stretching for several weeks, a month or so. And then, just, oh my God, I still got it, right? So all of these benefits, okay? However, in terms of explosive power, after that 5 to 8 month period, I think, I'm guessing here, maybe longer, maybe less, I noticed that I was, okay, I don't have raw bench press ability, that raw, pulling ability that I had when I was eating all of these stimulants in my diet, okay? Salts, seasonings, all these things like concentrated foods. These are all stimulants, and they hyper stimulate the body and even the muscles to be always on edge. Like if I, just to make it simple. So when you eliminate all those, okay, and your body's in this like purging phase, what it's doing is it's literally reforming you, much like you would reform or renovate a house. There's going to be a period where during those renovations, things are not in order and it's going to look, a bit chaotic until you get to the renovated room, and then things are much better than before. So that renovation period, okay, that can take longer or less time depending on how each individual body has stored and accumulated waste products in the past, and how damaged the tissues are from the diet. So it depends on the amount of damage the previous diet and lifestyle has done, and that will determine how long that breakdown process and that general weakness lasts, okay, if that makes sense. So it's, no different than, a big cut will heal slower. A tiny little prick will heal really, really quickly, right? So, for me, I noticed I was probably less energetic or less explosive power for a good while. We're talking several months to maybe even a year. Okay. Don't let that scare you though, because nobody else would have noticed this. It's just something that you notice, right? But it's not so, it wasn't so severe, and it will not be so severe for people out there in the audience listening, that it will stop you from exercising or living a very healthy life, okay? Just to put it in perspective, I'm still doing handstands and handstand presses and weightlifting and flipping and, gymnastics and all this I was still doing that, okay? So it's not like you're going to be infirm lying on the ground prostrate. Fruit is killing me. No. So it's not going to be that. But yeah, if you stay the course and eat just those raw food, healthy, nourishing, high water content foods, then yeah, you can expect some period, okay, more or less, where you're just not feeling like yourself, but you have all of these other benefits that start to accrue with the lifestyle. And it's those other benefits that make the temporary weakness worth it, right? Like there was no way I was going back to runny nose all the time, weird skin issues, super dry hands. There was no way I was going back to that just because I couldn't bench press as much. You know what I mean? So yes, there is that period of reform, but unlike renovating your room in the human body, because our bodies are magic, we've got this divine nature wisdom running through our bodies, empowering our bodies. We even though we're going through that renovation period, we've still got all these other benefits that go on at the same time, right? So the room analogy and renovating is almost a bad analogy because it's just a bit different in the body. But so to answer your question, yes, you can expect when you go fruit-based or raw food, raw living food, high percentage of your diet from raw living foods, coming from a whatever anything goes diet, expect a change or transition that can last several months here, maybe even slightly more. So don't think of it as a diet. I'm not speaking to you guys, I'm speaking to the audience. Don't think of this as a diet, because if you get that diet mentality, the way we've been programmed to think of diets is something that you do temporarily and then you go back to the same adulterated way of living, eating, because you can look better at the beach for your wedding or something like that. No. This is the lifestyle, right? It's a lifestyle, and the lifestyle is in your best interest to do forever, right? That is because that's what nature wants you to do. Okay, nature doesn't want you to have to find food and then, oh, I gotta adulterate it by cooking and I have to destroy it first before it enters my mouth. Right? I'm not saying that that's bad if you do that temporarily every once in a while. I'm just speaking freely here. So yeah, depending on what the damage you've done, then you can expect a longer breakdown period, but also expect the benefits to start being noticed immediately. And it's the lifestyle approach. Okay, so don't think of it as a diet. Just have fun with this new lifestyle that is going to give you all of these incredible benefits, and have fun with experimenting with new foods and new combinations of raw living foods, and just have fun with it, right? That's what I did. I just had fun exploring, and how my body responded was, yeah, that's how my body's responding, and I just kept doing that. Didn't make any changes in my fitness lifestyle, just kept exercising, kept being active, and then just doing this new and then I'm here. I'm still fine. I'm still feeling fantastic. In fact, I just came off of a 5-day dry fast. This is the second day of refeeding, I think. So you're looking at what the health community would label as a starving man right now, okay? And for all intents and purposes, like I shouldn't be like this. I shouldn't be like this if I've just starved with no food or water for 5 days, right? There's no way you can. This is impossible, right? Of course it's possible. Lots of people do it, right? And so yeah, I mean, what can I say? Culture is a funny thing. It really is a departure from truth and reality, and a lot of it is market driven, is politics, is politically driven. There's all sorts of influences that bleed into culture and try to get you to think and behave and feel and act in a certain way that is expedient for propagation of culture, to support authority, to do all sorts of weird things, and it's not necessarily the truth. So yeah. Anyway, long story short, yeah, if you want the end result, basically you have to be ready to put in that work. And in terms of health and healing, that work is the discomfort associated with healing and purging. Much like if you want to build a chair, you have to go through a period where there's the uncomfortable hammering and nailing and whatever of building the chair. And if you want the chair, you cannot avoid that period of uncomfortable work. Completely unavoidable. It must happen if you want the chair. So if you want the best of health and wellness and vitality and perfect immunity, like I'm talking immunity where you never have to worry about anything, all right? And I'm serious, like I'm dead serious. You never have to worry about anything in terms of immunity. If you take the time to go through that period of work, right? So that you can get to health, wellness, and vitality and immunity on the other side, okay? So expect that process, but fall in love with it at the same time.
Yeah, I think that's really important to remember, and often, I like to remind people that too. We've spent our whole lives toxifying it, and so we can't expect an overnight transition to switch back to where we ought to be. So we have to be prepared to go through these steps and just be trusting that this is our species specific diet. This is what we're supposed to be consuming, and so any sort of uncomfortable factors that come along the way are necessary in order to recalibrate and get back to that period of stasis, that space of stasis, so that we can assimilate this food in the proper way as is meant to be. But there are a whole lot of factors that go into it, just such as what was your way of consumption prior to switching to this? How long were you on that path? And how consistent are you with staying on the fruit dominant ways of consumption in order to cleanse and purge the body? And I think what helped you a lot, you said that even when you were on just a 7-year vegan cooked diet, you did experience a lot of fasting. I think fasting is such a powerful tool of recalibrating the body. So you did a lot of homework prior to that to slowly kind of transition back to that stage, which I think is really important. So we can kind of go at it from two different approaches. You can go the hard and fast method of like, you know what, tomorrow I'm going to go all fruit, only fruit. I'm coming straight from eating animals and eating all sorts of whatever. And then I'm just going to go to all fruit. Well, you're going to experience a lot of discomfort. You're going to experience a lot of detox. You're going to experience but you're going to get through it a lot faster. So if you're willing to do that, and if you're willing to stick with it, then that's a choice you can make. But if you'd rather slow down that detox and do a more transitional, you can switch to, okay, instead of eating animals, I'm going to go full vegan, still eating some cooked foods, and then slowly transition towards that raw lifestyle. So it's all a choice, how quick and heavy do you want to go at this? How much discomfort are you willing to endure in order to get to that end product? But you also want to be concerned with sustainability too, and not bite off more than you can chew. So it's all a balance. But yeah, I'm glad you explained all that. That really helps.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and I think that's one of the really important things that I find, Casey, with all the work that you've done in your channel. It's brilliant because you've really explored just absolutely everything, right? You've explored so many different approaches, right? So many different approaches that put you on different places on this kind of spectrum, right, of health and healing, and so that you're sharing that experience with everybody, like, oh my God, I want to say, I don't even think you know how helpful that is to a lot of people. I'm sure you do know, but it is. People want to hear this. They want to see people who've done this and done that, and then gone from this to doing that and that and that and that, right? So yeah, it's really nice to have that reference that people can consult and say, oh, okay, well this works, this doesn't, this might work. Oh, feel good here, feel good there, okay, and then slot themselves somewhere where they feel comfortable, right?
Yeah, thanks.
So
I tried to document it. I thought I would have figured it out by now and just been like smooth sailing.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, it's been so long. Like I did the math the other day. I started eating a fruit-based diet when I was 26. So I had 26 years of just terrible eating, fast food. And it's been 13 years of, obviously I haven't been on 100% raw fruits, but I've been like a large percentage of that was fruit based with a cooked dinner, sometimes all raw, lots of fasting, lots of juice fasting now. And I'm still not quite where, like, I'm surprised actually at how long it's taken me. I don't know what I did in those first 26 years to get to where like I need 13 years and that's not enough. It seems like I need the full 26 to make up for the first 26, and what a pain. But like people like you inspire me because I see like once you get clean, or if you weren't stupid enough to get so dirty in this life like I was, I don't know how I fell so hard into cheese and pizza and like, oh man, it feels like you made some better choices and like you deserve those from a past life, which you were also smarter than me in. So it's like, congratulations. And then, so like you're inspiring me when you get clean like this, it like, what do you eat now? It's like one meal a day, just fruit, and you can have all this energy and muscle, and then you dry fast for 7 days and not need anything. And you're still working, like you're showing the potential. And it's like, wow, like, how much protein do you eat? How much calories? Have you ever tried to count it just to see in a day? It's like, yeah, it's nothing close to what a nutritionist would recommend, but look at me, study me.
it's I don't calculate or measure or do any kind of calorie tracking. But obviously I have before, just out of curiosity, because, you know, we run YouTube channels. This is the kind of stuff people like to know. So yeah, it's that curiosity. I'm like, oh, I wonder. So yeah, of course, I plugged in, you know, my consumptions every once in a while, and yeah, most of the time I'm eating fairly under what would be normal. 1,200 calories to 1,500, anywhere in that ballpark, sometimes less. There are other times when I'm human. I'm human, and I'll splurge. Let's say it's I don't know. I like watching MMA, right? I've been doing martial arts since I was a kid. So if it's one of those days and there's a big pay-per-view, you know, seeing friends or whatever, yeah, maybe that might be a day where I'm splurging. When I say splurging, I'm not eating beer and pizza.
Steamed
Okay?
broccoli.
I'm bringing, yeah. Steamed broccoli for me is a flavor explosion. Like that's a treat, right? I don't even want to say a treat. Because it's not a treat, because it kind of hurts me a bit. Like I'll feel it the next day.
I agree though, like just steamed broccoli. I remember being 100% fruit, and then I just decided to have a big bowl of steamed broccoli, and it just gave me that like, oh my God,
Yeah,
it is so good.
yeah,
But yeah, maybe not ideal, but
yeah,
it's a pretty healthy cheat.
yeah. In terms of what you could be choosing as a cheat, sure, I would choose steamed broccoli over whatever people decide is a treat, right? But no. I'm always, when I say indulging, I'm just more of what I normally eat. So I'll just have an extra bit of melon. I'll have those extra 5 mangoes. Okay, that mashed banana and blueberry bowl, right? Okay, so I'll just have more of that. So that's what I mean by splurging. Okay. So yeah, so my general daily plan, it varies between what you said, what an OMAD, like just like one meal a day or one bigger meal a day. So one of the meals of the day could be a watermelon, right? I could have a watermelon in a day, and then either nothing for the rest of the day, or later on, maybe I have some pears, some mangoes, like one or the other, either pears or either a couple mangoes, or maybe it's a couple oranges or whatever. So maybe sometimes it's 2 meals a day, sometimes it's one. I'm not super strict on the I must be OMAD like I don't do that really. I just kind of play it by ear. But regardless of how many meals I eat throughout the day, it usually ends up working out to around 1,200 calories or so, sometimes more, sometimes less. 1,000 calories could be. So it depends. But yes, yeah, generally not the 2,000 calorie or the, I don't know what it is. What's normal? 2,500, 2,200, something
Well,
like
it's
that.
hilarious that like I'm eating at least double what you eat, and I'm probably half your height and size. Like it's hilarious.
Right.
Like, why am I
Yeah.
eating so much? Like I just ate a 1,300 calorie banana meal, and it's like I guess I'm just not absorbing it at all.
Yeah. It's, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, just I guess once you get clean, you just don't need as much food. And it's always shocking to me to see, like,
yes,
there is also that Dr. Amin Ra guy. He has his 1 meal a day vegan plan. It's starch based, but he also says like 1,200 calories a day, and he's like huge. Like, and then I'm just like, how?
Yeah.
I just feel like I'm getting weaker though on this plan for some reason. I guess I just have a lot more cleansing to do as a pain.
Right. Yeah, I can imagine how frustrating that might be, and how that might feel. And it's hard to and this is the thing. It's hard to say, because your body intelligence knows exactly what it's doing. It's the same body intelligence that's operating in my and everybody else's body. Right? It's always going to be doing what it deems is the best for you to bring about that perfect state of like godliness, right? Everybody, if we didn't have this program running in our bodies, we would not be here. We would not be alive, right? So, I cut you on the leg, your body's going to want to heal. I cut myself on the arm, my body's going to want to heal. And it's always doing that, even in terms of your internal chemistry, your body chemistry. Your body's always trying to uplift to this very, very perfect state. And the only difference between people is the conditions under which that natural intelligence has to work with. And those conditions get in the way, or they don't get in the way, right? So so we're always, what we're doing is we're playing with variables, and we're playing with conditions that we subject ourselves to that either interfere with the natural healing force, the vital force. They either interfere or they don't interfere, right? Or less interference. And so that being said, yeah, it's very hard for one person to say exactly what the issue is, right? Because there's no way I can know and peer into you and see, okay, what was some of the damage that was done prior to that needs focused healing. The one good thing is that we have this, Justin, like you were talking about fasting, and we have this incredible remedy, this incredible polarized end of the healing spectrum, whereby if we engage in it, we can start to see incredible types of healing go on. Like I can tell you, I don't know where you guys are on dry and wet fasting, but I've noticed that the best improvements came after periods of dry fasting. There's really something deeply, deeply powerful about that particular method of healing that seems to really ignite this type of regrowth, this type of chewing up of dead and dying material, and just getting rid of it and rebuilding right from scratch. Like you feel like you're being reformed and remodeled when you go on a sufficient dry fast period. And then the reading and whatnot, just there's something magical that happens there. And so in terms of, why is it taking so long to heal? Why am I getting weaker and whatnot? Yes, like you said, you're on the right track in that it's how efficiently the body uses the nutrition that comes in, right? Kind of like what I was saying before. We make the mistake of thinking that it's the bulk of nutrition coming in, but what we're really after is the efficiency that your body uses, or that it has, that is absorbing the maximum amount from less and less and less and less, right? So that's what we're really after, and identifying the factors that improve your efficiency. That's something that is worth considering. And so bouts of fasting or cleansing, like you just went on a juice cleanse, Casey, you just went on a very long juice cleanse. You did amazing work. Like it did a service to the body, to the tissues, and that will ramp up efficiency. And then the more you engage in that type of lifestyle, right, over time, you get better and better efficiency.
I could tell that I wasn't finished with it 90 days, and I was still eliminating sulfury stuff, and I was like, I felt like I had to stop, but I was like, wow, I'm dirty. And it's like, I think I need another 90 and a bunch of dry fasts. I just did a 44-hour dry fast, and I think I agree with you. It is the most magical fast. Like I couldn't believe the boost I got after it. It was just like, what a reset. Like that's got to be the most powerful. And I'm curious about your thoughts, like intermittent fasting versus, like, do you intermittent fast because they're not like, is there a ton of benefit from like a 23-hour daily fast versus going like 48 hours every other week or so? Like, I feel like the longer you go, the more beneficial it is. I never, like, I used to eat one meal a day, and I never felt like I got some magical reset in that short 23
Yeah.
hours. But every time I do a 48-hour water fast or dry fast, it's like a big event, a healing event. So like, is it even worth doing the one meal, or should people put it off and every other week or so do a longer 48, 72-hour fast or something like that?
Right. That's a really good question. That's such a good question. Because you could approach that from either end and come out with benefits as to doing either end. Okay, so in terms of the fast itself, if once you go beyond that 2-day mark, so once you go beyond that, like that 1.5 48-hour, 1.5 days or 48 hours. Once you get past that mark, that's when the real work starts to get done. Okay, in terms of healing. So your body has to get the message that that there's no food coming in, and it's going to deplete all of your glycogen from the muscles and from the liver. And then once you get to that spot, okay, that's when the effects really kick into high gear, especially if you've gotten to that state without water. Because in the absence of water, what happens is you're causing a competition for water in your system, essentially, whereby your body is going to, okay, there's no food coming in, there's no water coming in, so I must use all of the resources in my body to find water. And in the body's natural intelligence, it spares muscle tissue, it spares anything that's vital, and it attacks only dead, dying tissues, senescent cells. Senescent cells meaning old decaying. Okay, senescent cells, scar tissue on joints and whatever. Anything that's not a perfectly healthy, functioning cell, your body will prioritize that for destruction and breakdown, and it'll use the amino acids, the tiny little protein fragments from those tissues, from those old, dead, dying tissues, and it will use them to maintain and sustain your body so that you can do everything that's active, right? So you can continue to look for food if we're looking for the evolutionary type of thing. And it'll use those amino acids to just sustain your tissues, and it'll also synthesize water from that breakdown process. So you're still getting hydrated on the dry fast. Okay, I don't want to focus on just dry fasting. This happens with water fasting as well, right? But the thing to notice is that, yeah, if you have the time and you have the luxury to do so, then going past that 2-day mark is highly recommended, because that's when the real magic starts to happen. Okay. And you'll get more, and of course, healing works on a snowball. It works on a momentum principle. The more you do something, the longer you do something, the better the effects. Okay, I can go and do chin-ups for a day and then never do it again for the rest of the year. I will not get the better effects. I will not get as strong as someone who does chin-ups for 8 months. Right? It's a momentum principle. The more you do it, the more the effects. The deeper the fast, the more the cleansing, right? The longer the body has to do this process of breaking down all of these things, all those tissues that might be in your gut. So people that have gut issues, right? There might be actual damaged machinery there that is very hard to access or very hard to heal in the absence of the fasting phenomena, where you put yourself in the position, you put your body in the condition whereby the vital force can really operate and break down and start healing all of these things that it just doesn't have the time to do if your body's always digesting and eating, right? I always like to say it's almost like if you've got your job, you have whatever, you're working every day, 24/7, all the time, your room might get really dirty, right? And the only time you have the luxury of cleaning your room is if you get a couple days off, right? You get a whole week off work, I'm like, oh my God, let me clean my room, my cupboard, my closet, my shoe. You clean all this stuff, right? Oh, I have so much more time. You only have 1 day off. It's like, I can only put a couple things in order and then back to work, right? really, really simple analogy to think of fasting, and literally it works exactly like that. There's no difference. So is it beneficial now to just do the 24-hour fast, the intermittent fasting? Okay, so as much as you don't really go into that that autophagy or that fat burning phase, okay, as much as you still have muscle glycogen and liver glycogen, you still are getting physiological rest. That's the important thing, right? You still will be getting into those mechanisms to a small degree. So it is still beneficial to do them, right? It doesn't have to be all the time, but there is a biological kind of window that makes digesting food more efficient, and then there are times that are not. So if you wait all day, like Ramadan, during Ramadan, it's don't eat at all during the day, and eat, you can eat everything in the hours of the night. That is not very healthy. It's not a very great thing to do. You don't, no animal eats outside of its biological clock window where it's supposed to be resting, and nobody does this, right? No animals do. We're not nocturnal creatures. Right? We're up during the day and we sleep during the night. So to reverse this and eat during the evening when our bodies want to quiet down, when we're receiving the impressions from the environment that the sun is down, things are quieting down, and then to try and, okay, you're trying to mess with natural principles here and not in your favor. So my point is, intermittent fasting, okay, we have this intermittent fasting. Yeah, it's a good thing, because if you can tailor it to a small window during the day where you're eating, and then the rest of the time you rest, especially when you're supposed to be resting, then, like I was saying earlier, you increase the amount of physiological rest that you're experiencing, and that will always equate to more healing or better digestion when you do come to eat the next meal, right? So yes, I would recommend that people follow, eat in a window like 12 to 8 is a good window. I myself don't do that all the time. I'll very often eat before 12. Usually if I do though, my eating window ends like very early. Like I could stop eating around 4, 4 or 5 or so, sometimes even earlier. So, but yes, tailoring your eating window to during the day and as early as possible before you go to sleep, so that you have at least an hour or more before you go to sleep to digest your food. That's always going to be more healing. So there are, yes, both approaches are healing, okay? They are definitely good approaches. You will get more healing if you extend your fast. Yes, of course. Is it worth doing intermittent fasting? Yes, it's still worth doing intermittent fasting, regardless of what diet you're on, because it affords you physiological rest. You'll still get healing. You'll still get autophagy to a very small degree, but it happens, right? So yes, it is still worth doing those things. And of course, if you don't do those things, then you minimize any damage that's done by making what you eat healing, cleansing food, so fruits, leafy green vegetables, that kind of thing. If you want occasional nuts and seeds, you can do that. You can do that too, but just to a minimal degree.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
with intermittent fasting too, it sort of helps to reprogram your mind so that because most people are always eating something, like they're always snacking,
Yeah.
eating like all throughout the day. And so when we can kind of limit that time period, we can really practice and say, I'm not going to spend all of my conscious effort on what I'm consuming and devote it to other things. And you start to realize how much we're thinking about food. And the more that you can kind of get into that habit of not being so programmed into that, it just makes it a lot easier to go on those extended fasts to where, because it's mostly mental, like a lot, it's a lot less has to do with the physical aspects of fasting than people realize. It's very much a mental exercise.
Yeah, very, very much so. And it's you get familiar with this type of a stress, a hormetic stress, right? A stress on your body that's not so stressful that it hurts you, but just stressful enough that it gives you enough, it gives your body something to learn, right? Like, oh, okay, you're not going to be eating for this window. Oh, that means I have to be self-sustained. I have to be sufficient, right? And it work mentally and physically. There are changes that are made that make your body and your mind, right, more resilient to this state. And it's training. It's no different than any kind of training, right? We have all these people that can do sustain cold, right? You jump in the cold, right? And it's a stress. It is a stress. So you don't want to overdo that, right? But if you just stress your body just a little bit, right? Just enough so that you can get that stress, and then you have an appropriate response to make your body stronger. Yeah, you can tolerate some more cold. But does that mean you want to be going to the extremes? No, not necessarily. But the point is, it's like any stress. So you wouldn't want to just fast and fast and fast and fast, right? Because now you're causing more damage with this stress that your body can recover from. But you stress it just enough and you get stronger. And in terms of fasting, that strength equates to efficiency. Just like exercise, enough push-ups, enough sit-ups or whatever, enough sprints. If you do them without overburdening yourself, you will get stronger, right? Move faster, be able to pull more resistance, okay? As long as you don't overdo it. Works the same with exercise, fasting, mental effort, writing, anything, right? You give yourself enough stress that you have the ability to learn from, and that makes you stronger in that thing, right? So it works the same way. So
Yeah.
the more you can practice that in the lifestyle, the better.
Yeah, it's important to remember, especially if you're new to fasting, to take it slow. Start with small and incrementally work your way up. This isn't something where you want to jump into. You're coming from a standard diet and jump into immediately a 7-day dry fast. Like you don't want to do that. You'd want to start with that. Okay, tomorrow I'm going to dry fast for 12 hours. Like, and that's a really easy one because you sleep as a part of that time period, and slowly work your way up to those longer extended ones. But yeah, it's all practice makes perfect.
Yeah, I remember some of my beginning water fasts, and I would go 1 or 2 days, and I made it to 3 days once, and I was so nauseous and just, I felt terrible. But that doesn't happen to me anymore. Like once you keep on going with it, eventually like you clean out enough to where it's like your body adapts. You don't have so much poison floating around in your system, and it's a good thing. It's a good thing. So like this last 2-day dry fast, there was nothing. I was a bit tired. I wasn't going to run like Hercules, like Eli does on some of his trips with his dry fasting. He pushes the limits. But like I felt like I could have kept going. I felt like I was too close to my juice fast, my 90-day juice fast, and I felt I need to rebuild more. So I just cut it off. I was like, don't push it. Like, but it was still great. Like it was a great beneficial thing. So now when you're saying like fasting is kind of a stress, but a beneficial one, I like to stress myself at night with potatoes. Is that, I just wonder, like, I want to be 100% raw. And then I wonder, like, I know there's a spectrum of healing foods, like the fruits and vegetables, that's the highest. And then you can go all the way down to the worst processed foods. But I'm just wondering if like the starchy meal at night, is that enough to slow down healing completely? Like it feels like it's not right. It's just so fun right now. After that juice fast, I have to be indulging in some potato sushi. I roll it up with nori rolls and 2-ingredient meal, and it's so fun. But like it's definitely slowing my digestion down. There's definitely consequences, but I feel like I need it right now. But what is that like raw till 4 type plan, just maintenance, you're stuck here forever, or is it healing, or where on the spectrum does that diet lie?
Gotcha. So where on the spectrum it would take is it's gonna be there, and Okay, let me back up for a second. This is where just understanding a principle is very important. Okay, and once you understand the principle, you fit yourself somewhere where you're comfortable. Okay, so the principle, of course, is that life was not designed in such a way that the nutrition that we take in has to be destroyed prior to being taken in. Okay, that's just how it works. Okay, that is just how it works. Now, humans have cultivated this habit of cooking or processing our food, and we've done it for hundreds of years now. But that doesn't change the principle. Okay, so when we destroy, I don't want to be too harsh. When we cook our foods, it becomes something that is not as easily recognized and identified by the body. Okay, so the proteins in the food, whatever proteins are there, they'll coagulate. Okay, and they'll turn into structures that are no longer what they originally were. Take your thumb, you burn your thumb for like 2 minutes under a fire. That's a friggin' long time. 1 minute, 30 seconds. Okay, what happens? Okay, the thumb is going to burn up. All the proteins will coagulate into just this concentrated thing, where now the thumb does not respond to the touch sensitivity like it used to, and it probably never will, because that's what heat does. It is a destroyer, right? So are you preventing yourself from healing if you go the raw till 4 thing and just have some starch in the end? No, I don't want to say that. I think there is still a lot of healing that's happening. I don't think you prevent yourself from healing, because that real power comes from sleep. That's where you're really getting a lot of the restorative, rejuvenative power. So if you're getting fantastic sleep and you're eating raw for most of the day, and you have that one starch meal, you're still going to be fantastically healthy. You're still going to be getting healing. It's just that, like you said, and any raw foodist will attest to this, if you eat a raw diet, a high water content fruit diet, leafy green vegetable diet, you eat predominantly those for 2 months, 3 months, and then all of a sudden you have just this cooked meal out of nowhere. Everybody will tell you that, like you said, you feel a slowdown. There's some change has been made, right? You feel more lethargic the day after. Something has changed. Everybody will experience this. And that's why. It's because the food has been adulterated, and now the body is being challenged with dealing with a food substance that is no longer as it was created. Okay. Now, when we're cooking the food, we're concentrating the elements, the nutrition. So you notice like the steam leaves from the pot, so all the water is being evaporated into the air, and so you're concentrating the stuff, and so you get this concentrated bolus of food coming down the gullet, and it's exciting. It's very exciting to the body. It's like, oh my God, look, in just this little handful of food, there's so much more nutrition than blueberry, whatever nonsense that I was eating before. This, there's so much here. I want to survive on this because I need less of it, right? And so your body's trained to go after this, the food that it wants to go after, fruits and leafy green veggies. But it can be spoiled too by this human process of concentrating foods by cooking. And then when it eats it, when it goes into the system, it's very stimulating because it's such a concentration of nutrition that it's not getting from the raw food thing. All animals can be fooled like this. You can get a cow, a rabbit, or whatever. You can get these animals addicted to things that aren't necessarily for them. Farmers like to have cow licks for their cows, right? Licking salt is not a natural behavior for a cow, but you fool its chemistry into wanting that every single day. you know, so this works with all animals. So yes, okay, you are still going to get healing. It's not like you've stopped healing in its tracks. Okay, you will be healing. It's a good diet. It's a very healthy diet. It's just that you would at some point you would want to try to make a transition out of that slowly if you want to really access the depths of cleanliness in the tissues, because that stuff is always going to be encumbering, or just to a bit, to a mild degree, as you know, as you can feel whenever you have a cooked meal after a certain period of raw food, right?
I feel it right now.
It's like,
it's in me still. It's right
it's
in
in
there.
you. Yeah, you can feel it. Yeah, you can feel it. I've loved to challenge this and experiment on my own. I did a lot of this, like a lot of it, and cooked food is very, very addictive. Once, you know, going for a certain amount of time raw, and then, okay, maybe I'll try what happens when I eat a pizza, like a conventional vegan pizza. What happens when I eat a conventional burrito? What happens when I do this? What happens when I do that? And every time, without fail, the stuff is very flavorful, very stimulating. Enjoy what's happening. Okay, great. Feel different, slower, even like joint pains and stuff the next day. But there's this nagging thing. It's like, oh, but eat it again. Eat it again. Yeah, go and eat it again. It's great stuff, right? So there's that. Very addictive. Very addictive. And that it happened every single time, right? Or it happened every single time when I was curious about those things. Okay. So yeah, that's just the nature of the phenomenon of cooking these foods, cooking things that aren't necessarily natural for us to eat. Like you mentioned flax earlier, and it's like, yeah, I mean, you would never find flax seeds in the wild and just be attracted to it. Like you would walk by flax and just like, you wouldn't even notice it. Like, you wouldn't even care. It's like, but you walk by a tree that's got some ripe mangoes, pears, apricots, whatever. All of a sudden, the human sensitivities are just ignited for some reason. You're drawn to the thing, right? The smells, the colors, the everything about it screams at you that there's something interesting about this that you should want, right? But if a shark swam somehow in the air, I don't know. But if a shark swam by, it wouldn't give two craps about the apricot tree. It would just see, you know, people running around and say, that's food, that's for me, right? So yes, sorry, I know I'm trying to be very, very meticulous about this. You will experience healing. It's just that, yeah, if to go to the depths, right, to really access the cleaning of the tissues, it's going to come down to foods that do not slow down, do not stifle, do not acidify the system, right? And combine that with the healing phenomena of fasting. So you've got a human diet, right? Healthy human diet of just fruits, leafy green vegetables predominantly, some nuts and seeds if you want, okay? And I'll tell you about that in a second. And then fasting. So with the fasting, you're purging the system of everything that was wrong from the previous diet, and you're repairing all the damage done. And then with the raw food diet, you're not introducing more burden to your system. So you employ these two principles of getting rid of what's there, of the bad stuff that's there, and not introducing more bad stuff. And play with these two continually until you start accessing the depths of healing that you want to bring out. And so, like I said before, fasting is a momentum principle. Diet is a momentum principle as well. It works best when it's adhered to consistently. This is why animals in nature, when they dry fast, you hear a lot of dangers about dry fasting. And I don't want to knock wet fasting, because it's fantastic. Do wet fasting, right? I'm just using this as an example. This is why we hear in nature, like when animals are injured or when they, when they're sick or whatnot, when they fast, they usually do it without water. They usually just dry fast. And it's because their tissues aren't so encumbered by bad food and bad lifestyles that the dry fast is as dangerous for them. So Justin, like what you were saying, you wouldn't want to transition from just an anything goes diet to a harsh fast, because there's so much crap in the system that as they move out of the tissues, it can be very stressful on the body and can possibly cause damage, right? Possibly. But it's definitely going to be uncomfortable. So yeah, it's a momentum principle. So the more you can stick with it, the better in terms of healing and wellness and whatnot. Now, what that effect is on how energetic you are at the gym or whatnot, that I cannot say. I cannot tell you. But what I can tell you is that the principle exists whereby nature has not set up life to have to modify extensively their food before it goes in. That is the principle. So knowing that, we can fit ourselves anywhere we want and determine, okay, fine, just a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit of, and just play with it as is comfortable for you, as the person.
Yeah, I think that's well, I just think that's really important to remember that sustainability part, and that's different for every single person. So if you're one that you're able to just jump into something and stick with it, then stick, jumping into the all fruit might be great, and you can do that. But you do also have to be aware of your sort of self-indulgent with binging, because I see a lot of people going on these cycles of like going towards the extreme healing and then getting tired of that and going back to the standard diet and kind of going back and forth in that direction. So if that's more your inclination, then you do want to find some sort of plan like the raw till 4, where you're incorporating a high amount of raw, but having that cooked meal as that sort of stepping stone to get there. But like Eli said, if you want to take it a step further, you do need to look at some way where you transition out of that. But it's all, everything's a choice, it's all a choice for where you want to go.
And even in the raw food, I said I would come back to the nuts thing. Even with raw food, there are some foods that just by their nature are more difficult to deal with, even if they're raw. So we have like this thing of nuts. Yeah, they're hard on the system, man. Like I've done, because the way I eat is it's I like mono meals. Most everything I eat is a mono meal. Just blueberries, just peaches, just mango, whatever. It's usually a mono meal. So when I want to experiment with nuts, for example, silly me, I feel like, okay, what happens if I make a mono meal of just walnuts or just pistachios? Holy smokes. If you've done that, you can't imagine how encumbering that is. I've done it and it felt like I was carrying a boulder in my stomach for the next like 2-3 days, right? And that's raw food, right? And this is a good way to test. I've mentioned it every once in a while on my channel. It's a good way to test if something is right for you. Eat it in isolation for 2-3 days in a row. See how you feel, right? If you think salt is good in the diet, eat salt for 2-3 days only as your only nutrient and see how you feel, right? I'll do the same experiment with my apples or my melon or my oranges or whatever. I'll feel like $1 million, and I can guarantee, the salt eater is going to feel just awful. So you isolate that food, and then it kind of gives you an indication of how suitable it is. Right? So if you were eating just potatoes, right, you would be healing, especially if you came from like a worse diet. It would be healing to a degree. But on the other end, you would probably be a lot less dehydrated. More dehydrated, right? It would only take you to a certain place on that spectrum, right? It could only take you so far. if you're eating just potatoes and
Yeah.
not much further, you know.
There is that potato
but,
diet. I've seen lots of
yeah,
people getting some results, and yeah, like,
yeah,
but once you go to the fruit, you do realize it's a step back. And I feel like what Justin was saying earlier with the intense cleansing and then falling back to standard American, I feel like that's kind of what I'm doing, but my fallback is the raw till 4. That's my standard American diet, like
yeah,
just having potatoes. And I
yeah,
feel like it's
yeah.
just I don't know, it's something about the savoriness, which was one of my questions I had. Like
Mm,
you stumbled upon something perfect where you don't need much food. And one of my biggest complaints about the fruit-based diet is having to eat so much food, but you don't need it.
yeah,
So like I get sick of the fruit taste or like the sweet taste after a while, but I realize like I'm eating so much, maybe I don't need all this food, and it's like extra shopping. It's so expensive and all this eating, and I'm not enjoying it. And then I'm wanting a savory meal.
yeah.
Do you eat savory meals ever for like a one meal a day and just like completely knock back the calories? Or do you have them like, what's your savory go-to? Why do we even
Mm,
crave savory if we're frugivores? There's
gotcha.
only like tomatoes and cucumbers as savory
Yeah,
tastes.
right.
There's
Yeah,
a couple weird
yeah, pretty
questions in there.
much. Yeah, that's a good question too. No, no, no. Those are actually really good questions. Those are really good questions. Yeah, I don't mind savory every once. Many people might do, but yeah. So for me, a savory dish, yeah. Tomatoes is pretty much the go-to. Tomato, lettuce, maybe sprouts if I'm feeling really adventurous. That's I don't do that often, but yeah. Lettuce, tomato, could be an avocado in there. I try to stay away from that though. And something else, whatever, cucumber, zucchini. Just recently on the channel, I did a zucchini zoodles, right? Those are fun, right? Nice to see. But yeah, I don't do it often, very, very rarely. But I know what you mean with wanting to have some savory if you've had too much of the sweet fruits. And it's true. I think the answer to the question is the more that you eat, right? The more you kind of want stimulation, and you kind of start looking for all of the various degrees of stimulation on the palate. So if you start overloading the sweet palate, then you're going to go, oh, okay, well, let's go after the savory foods too and satisfy that part of our taste, right? Whereas, and it's interesting, whereas if you don't eat as often, every time you go for that sweet or that natural flavor that you're biologically sensitive to, excuse me, that is always a delight. So there have been times when I'm in just my regular eating mode, just eating fruit, and then I'll look at some mangoes and just be like, nah, I don't want any mangoes. Like I don't want more sweet. And I'll, like yourself, I would say, oh, maybe I'll go for something savory. Like, ooh, let me try some like mild peppers or something with my salad this time, or just. But if I don't eat for the next like 2 days, okay, next time I see those mangoes after the 2 days of not eating, all of a sudden something has happened, right? Where now the mangoes are like, I want those in my body right now, right? So this entire change just because there was the break or the absence from the food, right? So I think the way I would answer that question is I believe we want more more and more types of varying flavors of satisfaction from the diet, the more that we eat, period. The more you eat anything, period. So the more bulk of nutrition that's coming in, like any drug, you're going to want to satisfy that more and more and more and more. Whereas suddenly the absence of those things tends to regulate the tastes and align you more with what you're really looking for. So if you go on a 10-day water fast, right? And you're probably not going to want to eat bread as the first thing that you eat. It's because the fast will align with what you really want. You want something fruity, something that's that's human. A dry fast. Oh my God! You go on a dry fast. The last thing you're going to be looking for is salt, right? The last thing, because the stuff just aligns you with what you really want. Like in a dry fast, and you go into a farmer's market or not a restaurant, sorry, grocery store. The produce is just going to jump out at you, and you just, oh my God, look at that! God forbid someone cut open a fruit in front of you. Like if you don't have control, you're just going, oh my God, give me that thing, right? So yeah, it's the rest. It's the rest that I think resets you in terms of what your preferences are, and the more stimulation, the more you might want to satisfy all of those different types of flavors.
Which that makes total sense too, just to quickly add, because most people are more comfortable eating fruit after their sleep fast. And so that's why we're drawn to that fruit at the beginning of the day. People can, if you're still having those savory cravings, they don't usually come in until later in the day after you've already eaten what your body is hungry for at the start, after you're breaking that initial fast. So that makes total sense.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I've ever had a period where I was coming on a fast and my intense craving was for like lettuce and onion or something. Like I've never experienced that. It's always been for something that is deeply satisfying to the taste buds, which is our sweet centers, right? Our sweet centers they're very, very intensely satisfying. And so, yeah, I think that's what's happening there. Not that it's bad, and not that savory is bad. We have savory fruits that are just as cleansing and healing. But I think in terms of the hierarchy of what your body really looks after, it's looking for that sweetness, because that's what's really nourishing the blood. That's that kind of natural fructose, like you find in grapes or anything, right? Like Joanna Brent's The Grape Diet book. That was a great book. If you guys out there have a chance to read that, she did a lot of healing with a lot of her patients using just grapes, right? So I think that's what's happening there. It's hard to say though, because I can only respond with just with the natural sensitivities of the body, and I just don't find that you go after the savory as often. Once your tissues are at a place where the salt is gone, the stimulants are gone, and all that stuff, you just really starts to come back home to a place where you're looking for your natural food. And if you abuse the natural foods, even that can be not good, and you'll start looking for other stimulation, right? So you can take a natural food and you can just abuse over and over and over, and then start looking for more. So if I eat, I don't know, if I eat watermelon and mangoes all day, there might be a time at the end of the day where I'm like, I'm kind of watermelon and mangoes, but I want to keep eating because my favorite TV show is on. Oh, you know what? Let's make a salad instead, right? Whereas if I knew ahead of time that the mangoes were the only meal for the day, that would be it. It would be very, very satisfying. And then once it's done, it's done. Right? So, and just on the audience, that is not. I'm not saying that savory food is bad. I did not say that at all. Having savory food is fantastic if it's raw. Okay, but yeah, I'm just throwing out ideas.
No, it makes total sense, because I feel that too. Whenever I fast, I'm now wanting the sweet again. It's like, that's what I'm drawn to. I was asking myself during this last dry fast, I was like, okay, would I really want potatoes right now? Let's break the fast with potatoes. Do you want them? Like, not even close. I wouldn't even want them.
Oh yeah.
And so the fruit always is the first meal. It always makes sense. And I think I get into trouble because I'm thinking I need all these calories. So I'm overeating on the fruit, eating more than I need. And then I get sick of the sweet. And then, like you said, I just like eating and I just want to eat for the heck of it. And that's where the
Yeah.
potatoes come in. And so it's tough. Humans are weird. Like, why do we eat these things
Yeah.
that just, we know damage us, but it's like,
Yeah.
well, it's not that bad. I
Yeah,
don't know.
I know. I felt that so many times with doing the same thing. Potatoes. Okay. When I was vegan, well, I still am vegan, but I mean, when I was eating more of the conventional vegan food, I mean, potatoes that every day without fail, like that stuff, it's so good. And there's so many amazing vegan recipes that you can make with potatoes. And just for people out there that are thinking of going plant-based, I mean, ignoring everything we were just talking about, just the plants and the plant kingdom that's available to you, you can't imagine the variation. Like there's so many options that, harming animal life is really, it's really not something that we should be doing. I'm going to digress a little bit just for a second though. We're talking about, a fruit-based lifestyle or a raw living food lifestyle. Justin, you brought up a good point that I wanted to expand on just for a second, that we have to be mindful that, people are coming from all different types of situations and, and geographical locations and demographics and whatnot. This might not be a lifestyle that is even possible for some people, right? Depending on where they live. Okay, if you're living up in the Arctic, you're not going to get by on a fruit-based lifestyle. It's just not going to happen, right? Because you just don't have that available to you. So I do understand that. Yeah, you have to have your fruits available to you. You have to have your human food available to you. If it's not, you have to make do with what you can, right? So for some people, there's just no way they can get enough nutrition in the day or in the week or whatever, unless they resort to cooking some food. Okay, so I just wanted to get that out there that yes, as much as every species comes with a species specific diet, if you go outside of your habitat, you might have to resort to something else to survive or to get by. And in that case, you got to do what you got to do, right? Survival is probably more important than nutrition, right? If I were in outer space a month or two or whatever, and I had access to freeze-dried ice cream, and that's all I had, I might have to eat some freeze-dried ice cream just so I could survive and get back to the planet, right? So yeah, just be mindful of that. That yes, I'm not suggesting that everybody has to do this, even if they can't, right? But know that it is best. Every animal is best eating what they're supposed to be eating. Yes, but when that's not possible, emergency means of subsistence are, well, that's what you have to do. So just wanted to put that out there, that we're none of us here are ignorant of the fact that there are times and places and circumstances where this type of lifestyle is not feasible, but that doesn't mean it is the best way to go about conducting your diet.
And it's funny because I know you're like, we both live in Toronto, so what's my excuse when winter hits and I'm like, oh, I need potatoes, but you're definitely staying raw. What the hell, man? So there are levels of discipline and just knowing that you have. So like some people can make it work in the Arctic. I have seen a guy, I think he climbed Everest or something with bananas and they were frozen and he's eating them. Like,
oh, really?
Where there's a will, there's a way.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Yeah, I guess so, right? Yeah, where there's a will, there's a way. It's true. But yeah, and that's the amazing thing about this human ingenuity that we have. We can think of so many ways to tackle so many different problems, right? We can think our way out of virtually anything. Like, look at the stuff we do, man. I mean, we're friggin' underwater. They're playing with eels, way out of our habitat. Like, what the hell are we doing underwater? What are we doing, in space, flying around or in hot air balloons and whatnot? Yeah, exactly. we just do these incredible things. And imagine if we use this outrageous human ingenuity to align with our nature, rather than fight to divorce ourselves from it. Like, holy smokes, it would be incredible. But yeah, so
I'm
go ahead.
curious.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm curious to going back to sort of your transition into this way of being, and us talking about the amount of consumption. So when you were in
Mhm.
that initial, year
Ah.
or two, were you consuming much more than you are now? And then did you notice a gradual decline in the amount that you needed, or
Mhm.
did you automatically start with that kind of like 1,200 calorie,
Right.
roughly amount? I'm curious how that looked.
Um, that's a good question. I think I did eat more when I first started out, and I also had more because it was newer. I ate more combinations, like more
Right.
fruit combinations for sure. I definitely ate way more bananas when I first started out. So banana and dates, banana and apples, banana and pears, banana. And I did that a whole bunch. Sometimes I would even bake the bananas, or I would cook them for a while. Not for very long. It was a treat. It was a one-off. Um, More during my transition. Uh, baked pineapple. For those of you out there, if you've never tasted baked pineapple, just baked pineapple, it's ridiculously tasty. It's like there's no way it should taste that good.
Does that,
So yeah,
just a
so I did a
side
lot of
tangent
that.
on pineapple, does that get rid of, because like my mouth burns when I have raw
Yeah,
pineapple, would that
yeah,
solve that issue finally?
yes,
Oh, cool.
yes. It would solve that issue. Yeah, it would solve that issue. Yeah. So which is one of the reasons why I was doing it, right? Because I'm like, I love this pineapple, but it's fantastic for a little bit, but then if I want to eat more because I'm hungry, that's not happening, because it just burns the hell out of your mouth. At least here in Toronto or in Canada, where we get our pineapples, if we had actual tree ripened pineapples that ripened to the fullest, okay, you would not get that nearly as much. But yeah, sadly, we get second class pineapples here. But yes, okay. So to answer your question, yeah, I would definitely eat, I think, a bit more, but I didn't really track calories or anything
Right.
for my first year or so. It just wasn't really. It just wasn't something that was on my mind. But if I had to guess, yeah, I would say I ate more, and I ate more combinations of fruits together. I
Yeah,
would
'cause
definitely eat. Yeah.
well, I just think that's important to remember for anyone transitioning.
Yeah.
Until we get to that state where our body can efficiently assimilate these nutrients, we might have to eat a little bit more. But that's why it's so vital to really just listen to your body and what
Mhm.
it needs. As long as you can identify the difference between what your body needs and what your parasites are craving for,
Right.
and really distinguish between those two. But if you're really aware of what your body needs, make sure you're consuming enough at the start, and then as we do more fasting, as we do more cleansing, we can step that down gradually, as we progress. And that's been my understanding of this through my experience, and it sounds like it's been the same with yours as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the good thing is that when I was getting into it, I was already very, very well informed. So I was under no illusions as to what I should be eating. So the only possibilities for what there was to eat was that fruit or leafy green vegetable family, right? And that was it. Like that. I had the blinders on. Like, okay, that's it. If I'm hungry, well, this is what I have to choose from, right? So I had the benefit of at least knowing that. So it wasn't a problem. If hunger wasn't a problem, I would just simply eat more, right? Of the stuff that I knew was meant for me. So yeah, for people that are transitioning, I would say ignore the calorie consumption thing. I would just ignore it and just stick with, okay, this is what is the human diet. Just eat, and until you're satisfied, and that's it. That's the only gauge you really need, right? And pay attention just to not eat for whatever reason. Okay, we're all human. I do it too. Sometimes I eat for no reason too, right? So we all do it, right? but just as much as you can, just be mindful of not eating when you don't need to. And so just like general simple rules of thumb, like, you know, when you're hungry, eat. Wow, you know, who really needed to hear that? but that's how simple it is. Eat when you're hungry and eat the things that you're capable of digesting. Wow, huge revelation, right? But that's it. That's how I operated that first year. And so because I was accustomed to more concentrated foods in the diet, right? Body didn't have that type of efficiency where it was fine eating less. So yes, you just eat more until you balance that out. And that's where the fasting comes in. So the fasting is healing and regulating and taking out what shouldn't be there. And then the clean eating is not putting extra burden on you. So you balance between those, and then you're getting this system of healing where every once in a while you're squeezing the tissues like a dirty sponge. It's coming out, and then you rehydrate that sponge with just water. Okay, fill it back up, and then the next time you do another squeeze, and then it rehydrates a little bit more with good stuff, and you get the idea, right? So that's that systematic approach to a healing lifestyle where you're going through periods of some fasting in a non-overly stressful way, in a way that is tailored to you and what you're ready to do. And then when you reintroduce eating, then you do it in a clean way, so you're not burdening yourself with extra encumbrances. And then you do the fasting, and then all of a sudden, you know, you start to see that's where the magic starts to happen.
So do you feel like just fruits and veggies, that's pretty much our diet? Like we don't really need to tap into the nuts and seeds or sprouts, or do we even need the vegetables?
Right. I really do strongly feel that you could, if you eat fruits in their isolation, and be perfectly fine. Yes. I think what's happened is that nature has given us a sheer abundance of things that you could choose from to satisfy where people might end up in the habitat, right? And packing those things with nutrition so that people here can get by with this, people here can get by with this, as long as you're sticking to that general family of human foods, right? So we can make do with all of these types of nutrition, but is it necessary to include the whole spectrum of them in the diet? No, I don't think so. I think that the ability to synthesize in our own bodies and to reform and repackage nutrients from a particular food in a way that serves the body in the way that it needs, I think that power is severely underestimated. Whereby, you know, you're going on the, you know, you eat apples if you love apples, if you eat apples for whatever 4 weeks, you're gonna feel like $1,000,000. If you don't like apples so much, you might get bored of the taste, whatnot, whatever it is. But in terms of how you feel, like if you really analyze how you feel, you'll feel like $1,000,000. I know I did every single time I've done a mono fruit cleanse, like watermelon for 2 weeks or whatever, bananas for 3 weeks. I did grapes for a month. That was one of the first things I did. You feel so bloody good, right? Now, I don't imagine that good feeling, that feeling of energy, the feeling of lightness, of joint laxity, of flexibility, all of these things that come with. I don't imagine that would be happening if what was being taken in was not sustaining, right? In some way, With the grape cleanse, by the end of the grape cleanse, I really did not want to stop. Like it was only the human intellectual part of me that was so curious to experiment with other things. That was what got me to stop. But if I really was honest about how I felt, I mean, I would have kept going with those grapes because you just feel so good. So yeah, I think that we have the luxury of using all this spectrum, the fruits, the nuts, and the vegetables, some, like in the vegetable family, you have all these different types of nutrients that are more concentrated, like minerals and whatnot, that you don't find as much in fruits. So that can be helpful. If you have a specialist who a naturopath or a healer that specializes in, dietary deficiencies or whatnot, yeah, you might be able to use that in order to help heal someone or to help someone in a transition. So let's say someone has some absorption capabilities that are eroded, that are not as strong. Maybe you could use lettuce, or you could use some vegetables to supplement that person while they're on a healing lifestyle, to at least satisfy that inability to absorb as well. And then when they transition, they get better, they heal a bit, and then all of a sudden they don't need as much. Right? So it could be that. This is just, I'm just taking scenarios and hypothesizing here. But in terms of, do you at the base fundamental level, is it necessary to include nut seeds in the well, I mean, I'm living proof right now. I'm telling you right now, I barely ever eat nuts, almost never. It's literally almost never. And I don't seem to need them. Okay. And it's been like over 5 years now, I think. So but that's just an anecdote, that's just a personal anecdote. But the overly concentrated nutrition of a nut is it's very difficult to break down. And if you want to prove that to yourself, all you have to do is just eat nuts in their isolation for a day or two. That's it, just a day or two. If you want more than that, I can guarantee you you're gonna not want to eat those nuts continuously. But if you do the same thing with any other more high water content food, it'll feel better. So you don't need to include them in your diet, because you still get all of the amino acid profiles from all the fruits in less concentrated forms. So your body takes them and it handles them, and it packages them into whatever it is you need. Right? It's in the concentrated form. It's just coming in a way that's more difficult to unpack. Right? So there's no real difference between the two, besides the difficulty in accessing the nutrition from the nut, because it's got all the protective enzymes and the enzyme inhibitors and all that kind of stuff that want to preserve the nut. So with vegetables are a lot easier. So the leafy green vegetables are a lot easier to break down. So I think, to be safe, right now, this is me personally, I think to be safe, if I were giving advice to the public, I would say fruits and the soft leafy greens, when desired. So leave it to your taste buds, leave it to your intuition. If you're having a desire for a salad or whatnot, then honor that and go after that salad, go after that savory dish, whatever it is. If you make the predominance of your diet fruit, and then you supplement with leafy greens here or there, I can guarantee you are getting the bulk of nutrition that you need. In terms of protein, you add a little bit of leafy greens, a little bit of leafy green, whatever, to your diet, you are getting more than enough protein. You're getting more than enough of the whole nutritional spectrum. Okay. So if I were being safe, then I would say, fruit and leafy greens with a strong emphasis on the fruit. That would satisfy all the nutritional needs for your body. And then the nuts and seeds, Casey, like you said, in the winter, if it's hard to find fruit, depending on where you are, the nuts make a very good option now, because they preserve. They're so well sustained. So that's the main advantage of the nuts. But do you need them? No, you don't need them. No, you don't need them in terms of nutrition.
I'd love to see our actual human nutritional requirements. Like, what are they? Because they're nowhere near what like nutritionists are saying. If you enter your food into Chronometer or something, it's like fruit diet's always deficient in everything, yet like we're thriving. And it's like, well, what do we actually need? Like, maybe not much at all. Like B12, I was going to make a video called like, you're not vegan if you supplement B12, because like, just if you believe a vegan diet is the healthiest diet, then you would have to have the faith that the B12, if it's not there, we obviously don't need it and we make it ourselves.
Yeah.
But if you're supplementing it, you doubt veganism, and then
Yeah.
that could lead
Yeah.
to something, I don't know. Like I know you don't supplement with it. Like, did you, I guess in the beginning, maybe you did and then you stopped, or?
No, not really. I supplemented for B12 for a period that was not really even worth considering. I bought some once, and I used it for I don't know, like a couple of weeks, and then I just threw it out. I'm like, I don't need this. So, I mean, no, I don't supplement B12, and I never really have, save for one period where I just did it, not because I noticed anything in my body, or it was purely intellectual. It's just like, oh yeah, I should supplement B12, you know. But so no, I've never supplemented. I never have, and I still don't. And you know, my B12 levels seem to be fine. You know, the last blood test I took, they seem to be fine. You know, so yeah, again, it's the efficiency of the body and how sensitive it is to be able to absorb and process and use what it has to give you the nutrition. And it's not the sheer bulk, it's just how well your body operates is what determines that. And so yeah, with the B12, yeah, like you said, you know, you process it yourself. It's in your gut, it's in your mouth, in your saliva. But if your body is too acidic, if it's too encumbered with wastes, then you'll have problems accessing the fine amounts of B12 that you generate, right? And in the absence of that efficiency, you might lose that stuff. And so that's where, you know, the vegans run into problems. But then you have meat eaters that have B12 deficiency too, right? Which
Yeah,
shouldn't make sense. But
I think that comes a lot from just people not going outside enough. You know, I think we forget
yeah.
that we can absorb B12 through our skin. And so if we're not
Mhm.
having contact with the earth or any plant matter at all, we're not being outside, like that can introduce that sort of issue a lot. So I always advocate for, if you feel like you have a B12 deficiency, like go put your bare feet on the ground, go hug a tree, you know,
Yeah.
just go spend time out in nature, and
Yeah.
you'll get those natural sources of B12 or whatever it is.
Yeah, it's absolutely. And it's so interesting with nutrition because you hear these extreme, some of these yogis, or some of these, you know, like some like Buddhist practitioners. You'll hear all these stories about, you know, surviving on just a couple grains of rice and like a piece of bread, you know, for the day. And what's interesting about that is that they survive. You know, the body does maintain itself with this fraction of what we're told is necessary, right? And so, like, these people do exist where they eat literally nothing, making no difference. Okay, optimal diet, whatever. Yeah, rice and some bread, but just like just a tiny little bit, and that's it, right? And what's important to get from that is that, you know, not are they super healthy? Are they going to go and do, you know, compete in like a parkour competition? No, but they're living, they're surviving, right? The body is being maintained, right, at some level. And so that's what's interesting, right? That's what's interesting, because most of the time you'll find these people and they're just like really, really slim, really, really skinny, and you'll look at it, it's like, I never want to be like that. And it's like, well, yeah, you wouldn't, right, in Western society. But they're there. That's what's interesting. It's like, okay, wait a minute, they're there. They survive. They exist, right? They're living. And if that's the case, if that's an extremity that we can plot on our, you know, on our grid here, it's like, well, if they can survive indefinitely with this meager amount of nutrition, what happens when I just bump up that quantity of nutrition just by a little bit, right? What happens then? Right? Do I need the sheer bulk coming in? And so now you play this game. It's like, okay, well, maybe, you know, maybe everything I'm told is not necessarily necessarily correct or true, or maybe it's a bit misleading, right?
Yeah, when
But
it's a
yeah,
big topic to get into, but then you go a step
yeah,
further and looking at breatharians who claim to eat nothing
yeah,
at all
yeah,
and receiving the energy from the sunlight and the breath and all these other different matters,
yeah.
and really start to sort of recognize that we might not necessarily even need the food to survive, and it's just
Mhm,
a sort of a game that we're playing at this level of consciousness,
mhm.
but perhaps we can rise above that and transcend beyond that. But it is all
Yeah,
fascinating to experiment and play with for sure.
yeah, it is. It's very fascinating. Yeah, very fascinating. And that's, that's why the approach of the body, the physical body, because that's kind of it's the foundation upon which everything is built, right? You only have that one temple in this particular lifetime. And so it becomes incumbent on the person to do what's best for that temple, for that body, so that spirit has as clean a vehicle as possible with which to express itself. So all the glories of spirit, right? It works through the physical body. And just like I use the example, just like a musician, you have the world's greatest musician, trumpet player, greatest trumpet player. But if you give him a trumpet that's made of, chocolate or something, and it's missing keys or whatever, it doesn't matter how fantastic that musician is. He'll only be able, or she will only be able to produce a certain quality of music if the instrument is not good, right? If the instrument is faulty or corrupt, right? So in purifying the physical vehicle, you allow for the expression of more of the glory of spirit. Okay. So you give that musician a fantastic trumpet. It's got 50 keys instead of three. It's what you might be able to make incredible music. Okay. And so it's the spirit trying to work through the physical vehicle, and it's either being stopped or it's being allowed to express. And that's what happens when we start to clean and purify the body, is we're allowing that divine intelligence of nature to find more avenues for expression of itself. And realizing this and understanding this, it's just, it pulls you into a place of responsibility where you want to be as good to yourself as possible. And so, and understanding those key principles helps you align there, so that you can make whatever other aspirations, like spiritually or mentally or intellectually or in life or whatever. So yeah, and the best for the audience, I would suggest that in order to clean up that vehicle as best as possible, yeah, you're looking at a nutritional profile that is highly fruit based and supplemented with leafy green vegetables. That is going to give you the best chance at cleaning out the system. And then of course, what's feasible for you, wherever you are your transition, you can sprinkle in whatever else you want, right? If cooked food helps, do it, right? If seasoning helps, then do it, right? But just understand where the principles lie, and then that's really the game changer. That's what, because the problem is that we don't know that we have this dietary prescription from nature. That's what's the stumbling block, because most of us don't even know that it exists, right? We have this conception of the human nutritional profile, and it spans everything and anything, right? I guarantee there are people out there, eating tapir feces, thinking it's human food. I don't know. Who cares? Humans do all sorts of crazy stuff, right? So
Yeah.
just knowing the principle, I think, puts you on good footing, so that you can take your spiritual, mental, and physical wellness to higher levels. So,
Yeah, start with the simple truth and then recognize that
yeah.
every step away from that is a deviation. But as long as I'm aware of
Mhm.
where that truth is, I can incrementally work towards it, which is always the best place to
Yeah.
be.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so we are a little bit over 2 hours. Casey, I wanted to check with you and see if you had any other burning questions for Eli before we sort of wrap up for the day.
I do. I do. I have a
Yes.
skincare question. It
Oh,
seems
nice. Yeah.
whenever I see a fruitarian, it's just perfect glowing skin, and usually it happens very quickly. I'm just wondering your theory on it. Like, is perfect skin, is it like 99% within? Like, what is, do you have a skincare routine? Do you do any, like, does it even matter? Once you get clean, could you just not wash your face? Like, what do you do personally?
Yeah.
And is it mostly just the diet? It's that fantastic skin right there.
It's thank you. It is mostly the diet. It will be mostly the diet. You just did your juice cleanse. You probably noticed that like right away your skin looked really, really good off that juice cleanse, if I'm not
It was
mistaken.
better, but it was
Um,
still, I still have these like
yeah.
tiny forehead bumps. I'm not sure what that is, no matter
Yeah.
what I seem to do, they remain.
Yeah. Yes. So your skin, the way the skin looks is going to be in some way reflective of what's happening inside. Or if not what's happening inside, what's coming out from the inside. It's just an avenue of exit. It's an avenue of egress for internal poisons or internal toxins or whatnot. And your body will employ the skin in order to get rid of things that are difficult to get rid of conventionally, or stuff that might take in from literally the environment, as like weird oils or tars or whatever. I don't know. Who knows what's out there? But it's predominantly the diet. Yes. So predominantly the diet. What you can use to really help though is dry brushing does really help, right? If anything, if any supplement to your skincare routine that I would suggest is good to have a dry brush home. Okay. Before you go to bed, you can just dry brush your skin and then rinse off, go and shower. And that's probably the best thing that you can do if that's a supplement to a good clean. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, something like just what Justin's holding up. That's going to be a fantastic way to go. So yes, eat cleanly, eating very cleanly. The fasting. So when you're fasting or you're juice cleansing, that is a very, very expedient time to take your dry brushing routine to the next level, in the morning and the evening, right? So you're ready on the day fast, great, okay? Dry brush in the morning, evening, and then rinse off, shower, and then go to bed, and then same thing in the morning, and your skin will be noticeably healthier. However, again, this is only going to work if the diet is the main brunt of the changes that are made. So yeah, my personal skincare routine. My personal skincare routine is make sure to eat blueberries, make sure to eat watermelons, eat fruit. Essentially, is my skincare routine, right? I have a dry brush in my washroom. I will use it every once in a while, but that's it. So I don't do anything special on top of that. I don't have any like what do you call it, like cosmetic like creams or anything like that, or face peels or whatever. Like I don't do any of that. It's just the diet, and that's pretty much it. I do have that dry brush. I can dry brush from time to time if I feel like it, but that's really it.
No showers?
If sorry,
Like
you mean
water?
oh yeah, of course. Oh no, of course, yes. Showers, not as often. Might sound disgusting, but I don't shower as often as people might shower. I can go like a couple days without showering, and if I didn't tell you, you wouldn't know. But your body is very self-cleaning. It doesn't require this type of upscale human treatment every single day, right? It really doesn't require that, and it's not necessarily a good idea, because you have this oil production on skin that is supposed to act as a barrier, is supposed to nourish your skin. So if you're always dry brushing, like too much dry brushing or too much cleansing, right now we seem to have this obsession with what do you call it? Oh God, what are those things called? Sanitizers, hand sanitizers.
Mhm.
Everyone's going nuts with sanitizers. They're reveling in it. They're bathing in it. Right? That stuff is destroying your skin. Okay, it's alcohol based. Alcohol is a destroyer. It destroys what it touches. Okay, you're destroying that oil secretion on your skin that is protecting you and nourishing your skin from things in your environment. So getting away from all these harsh chemicals and soaps and whatnot, eliminating those, kind of like what we talked about earlier, but if you just eliminate a certain percentage of things from your diet and lifestyle, you'll automatically get healthier. You eliminate, oh sorry, that's just my phone ringing in the background. You eliminate like all these harsh soaps and chemicals and whatever, your skin will probably improve just by doing that. So deodorants and all these, I haven't seen a deodorant in, I don't even remember the last time I used a deodorant, right? And yet sometimes you have people say, hey, you smell good today. It's like, oh really? Well, I didn't do anything, right? It has happened, right? It has happened. So yeah, skin routine, it's mostly a product of what you eat and how you live. Okay. On top of that, the supplements, just dry brushing is really all that I would suggest. If you're shaving or whatnot, you can use just like a simple oil, like an avocado oil or a coconut oil. That's good for if you want an aftershave of some sort. That's about it though. That's yeah. So it's not too much. And yes, if you're still doing a pretty clean lifestyle, right? So if you're still noticing like bumps here or there, or whatnot, don't be discouraged, because it's probably a good sign. It probably means, I don't know if I want to use the word probably, but it might mean that because your body is now in a better state, in a cleaner state, it's rebelling against stuff that should be there with more sensitivity than it might have before. Much like if a non-smoker smokes the cigarette, then they cough and it's awful. It's your body rejects it with more potency than the routine smoker. So it might just be that your body is more sensitive to poisons that it's eliminating than you would have previously. And the fix would just be, again, consistently adopting the raw lifestyle and the fasting lifestyle. And at some point, the skin will respond, because the skin will be a reflection of what's happening internally. And eventually that will, I had dry hands. I had really dry hands. That was one of my biggest problems when I was vegan. And it took a lot of chipping away, right? So when I started Fruitarianism, I started noticing all these benefits, all these improvements, but the dry skin on my hands, oh man, that was lingering, that was lagging, okay? And it was frustrating. But I just stayed the course, and I kept on. Eventually it responded. Eventually my hands responded, and they started to clear up, and I was over the moon.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things. It's just kind of like being consistent with the right stuff, and eventually the skin will have no choice but to respond.
Yeah, it seems like it's just one of the last things to happen, the skin, for me at least. It's a little frustrating, but yeah, I hear you. I believe it too. Like, at least I'm eliminating the toxins, because I remember going on keto, my skin cleared up, but then I would get like more serious symptoms like vertigo happening. Like, I'm getting dizzy now. Like, what is this? Am I gonna have a stroke? Like, at least the vegan, it's like minor inconveniences, a bit of skin issues or some digestive gas. I have lots of that. That's fun.
Right,
too.
right.
But, yeah. So is Eli not a flat earther?
Yes, sir.
we're getting comments there in the comment section.
Is Eli, am I a flat earther? Okay,
Where do you stand on it?
Hold on one second. That's hilarious timing. I have to go to the washroom, so you'll have to excuse me just for a second. But am I a flat earther? I am not a flat earther. No, I am not a flat earther.
So are you a full-on globe believer?
Am I a globe believer? It seems I've looked into it. Oh, what was that? I heard a weird echo. Yeah, I've looked into it, and it seems as though that the tendency for nature to make spheres. This is just one aspect. This is just one angle, but the tendency for creation to use a spherical design for absolutely everything is pretty hard to ignore. And there are certain phenomena like that go on planet Earth that are very difficult, if not impossible, to explain in the absence of something spherical, right? Of something spherical.
Yeah, well, that's kind of where just to tackle that particular one, we do live in a sphere,
Yeah.
but it's a stationary plane surrounded by the etheric sphere, and so it absolutely follows that natural principle. But as far as the ground that we are on, at least that's my understanding based on the research that I've done, and the lie that's been perpetrated about everything. But this is a big can of worms to get into.
Oh, it's such a big topic. I have a question. Does okay, in terms of the I don't want to go there because it's just such a big topic. But in terms of origins,
we gotta get you back on, so we can do some more on this later on. But go ahead with your thought.
Yeah, sure. In terms of origins, is it would you say that the consensus is that the planet is like an architect, like an alien architecture of some sort, or is it just a divine creation, a natural creation of universal intelligence, or is it some sort of construct
divine creation
by flesh and blood?
Yeah, I mean, divine creation, absolutely. As far as far as I can tell, this is an experiment that we co-created, as part of this one infinite consciousness that we are just an infinite fragment of. And this is the perfect design for us to play in, so that we can experience the physical reality and then reunite with the divine etheric reality that we came from.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I've definitely looked into it, but I mean, open to anything and open to any and all information. People have sent me stuff, and I'll always watch and
yeah. Check out if have you ever stumbled across Eric Dubé's channel? Ever heard of him?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I think his stuff is the best, as far as just it's kind of similar to how you approach things. He's not here to sugarcoat anything. It's no bullshit. Like, these are the experiments that you can do. Yeah, I'm not trying to it's just very simple, straightforward, and to the point. But he does a really great job.
Yeah. If you have any ones in particular, send them my way afterward, and then of course, I'd be happy to take a look.
Yeah.
Join our flat Earth cult, Eli.
Yes.
No, it's just interesting. I've seen some documentaries. So it's like, I'm not smart enough to know either way, so I'm always on the fence with this whole issue. It's like, it could be flat, and then somebody will debunk it, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm a moron. Why would I think it's flat? I have no idea, but it's fun. It's fun to think about. I feel like it's flat. I have flat Earth posters. I just know that we're being lied to for sure about everything. So that could be one of the major ones. Who knows?
That is absolutely true. Yeah, that's the thing. It's just like, well, let's see. We're lied to about health, lied to about history, lied to about education, lied to about this, lied to. So where does it end? Why wouldn't we be lied to about that?
Right. There cannot be any truth for their system to work. It has to be 100% lies. And so that is another one.
Yeah.
And arguably the biggest one, you know, if we can't even trust the very ground that we walk upon. Whereas if we were never told that we were on a spinning globular floating ball hurling it through space at impossible speeds, everyone would know that the earth was level, because you look out, you climb a mountain, you look out, it's level, you know, it's very much obvious from that perspective. But since we're bombarded from the beginning with this idea that we are on a ball floating in space at impossible speeds and somehow nothing flies off of it, and we can't even feel that, we can't even sense it, we just have to trust these experts and these given values and everything else. And you can't prove any of that without these experts and these given values. And it just adds to this layer of deception, to where we're always taken away from the truth, with which the truth is God. You know, that's our divinity. The truth is this always encompassing force. And so the further away that we are taken from the truth, the more that we're easily controlled, and it makes for better slaves. So of course it makes perfect sense why they would perpetrate lies to that degree.
Sure.
Yeah, that's my take.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, progress and freedom is, you know, is antithetical to truth. And they know that. They know that they can't have a well-functioning, not a well-functioning, but a society that takes them in the direction that maintains and perpetuates the elitist, or the so-called powers that shouldn't be. They know that they can't have people understanding principle and fundamental laws of truth, nature, and morality. They know that they can't have people running around, you know, understanding these things. So they do everything they can to separate us from that, right? And so, I mean, yeah, there would be every reason in the world to not have the populations understand who they are, A, and the world around them, B, right? So the two arcana in nature, essentially, the major and the minor, you know, just like, okay, understanding of the self and understanding of the world around you. The two most important subjects that you could possibly study. There's nothing more important to subjects, you know. And and interestingly, understanding one makes you understand the other, and understanding the other makes you understand the one. Right? So
exactly. They're ultimately one and the same, which is the beautiful part of it.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, we're trying to aim to keep these at 2 hours. This conversation just absolutely flew by. So I would love to get you back on at some point later down the road. And you know, kind of as we've all progressed in our health journeys, maybe we can expand on this discussion on Level Earth even as well. But yeah, this has been absolutely fantastic. So we'll go around the room and just give everyone a chance to do some closing comments. So Casey, I'll start with you. You got what you got to close us out today?
Yeah, thanks, Justin, for hosting another show, and thanks, Eli, for coming on. I got a lot out of it. Every time we do one of these shows, I get a little more motivated to go back into the cleansing. And sometimes on my own, I start to question it. And it's like, I run into these hurdles, and I'm like, maybe another path, but I'm just sharing my journey and giving my honest thoughts. And I do want to try it, like a longer dry fast. That's what I'm being pulled towards now. Like that last one felt pretty easy. So I'd like to push it a little bit, see if we can do a 7-day, maybe not, just don't put a number on it. But thank you for the motivation, and fasting seems to be just so powerful, and I'll stop overeating on this food. I'm just like eating so much for fun, and I know it. And it's fun to be reminded just to like back off. You don't need so much. Like, good.
Oh, great. Oh, I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that. And I hope it was constructive. I hope it was worth everybody's time out there listening. We spoke a lot about fasting. And the one tip I would say is, if people who do want to get into that fasting lifestyle, definitely, just whichever one you do, whether it's water fasting or dry fasting, try to get beyond the 2-day mark. Find at some time that's easy for you, get beyond that 2-day mark, go for that 3-day. So for dry fast, a 3-day dry fast, great. 5-day dry fast, great. If you want to go longer than that, holy smokes, awesome. But you know, don't get caught up in that. Like, I must go for very, very, very long. No. You just chip away at it. You just chip away. 3-day here, a 4-day some other day, another 3-day. You play with it at your own pace, and that's the best way to go about it. So but it's a very powerful tool. Use that to your advantage, and you're going to find some very, very pleasant rewards in your life.
Beautiful. Yeah. Did you have any other closing comments for us today? Is that about it?
So me?
Yeah.
No, just thank you so much. Thank you so much for hosting.
Yeah.
Like Casey was saying, I've been waiting a long time to come on and chat with you guys, and it's been everything that I anticipated, and it's such a great conversation. And I think we got some good content out there into the internet world. And so appreciative. Thank you for having me. And let's for those of you out there, I hope this was worth it, and continue to spread and share that good word, that path, the health and healing path, with good, clean, healing food, with a basis in truth and morality. And we're going to make it through this period of darkness, it seems, but it's only going to happen if everybody's on the same page, right? So, and this is one place to start, having responsibility to your own health and wellness, right? And understanding that it doesn't come from weird things and protocols that the authorities tell you. It doesn't. Health and immunity doesn't come from slapping a cloth on your face, that kind of stuff.
Nope, certainly does not. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Eli, for coming on, and thanks, Casey, for being here. Both of you are just such beautiful representations of that service orientation, where you recognize, I want to take ownership of my health, but not only that, but I want to share that truth with others, and spread that wealth, spread that knowledge. And so that way of service, as Eli compared at the very beginning of the show to the tree, and how, and I love that video. I don't know exactly which one that was where you sort of expanded on that topic, but check out Eli's channel, FreeMelon Society, and you can find that one. But just expanding on the tree and how it is designed to be of service. And the more that we can emulate the tree and operate from that place of service, we operate in the harmony with how this whole creation was designed, which is to be of service.
Yeah.
So the more that we can do that, the more that we can expand. And both of you are just beautiful representations of that divine masculine way of service. And so I want to thank you both for being here, and thank you both for your time and your effort and energy for doing that. Yeah, it's truly amazing to be a part of, and I'm honored to be here. I'm honored to be able to host this. So yeah, that's amazing. And if anyone is looking to sort of accelerate their detox path and want to join me, I like to do a period of cleansing every solstice and equinox. So for this month of September up until the 24th after the equinox, I'm going to be doing predominantly grapes, and if I can't find grapes, backup is watermelon. So that's going to be my routine for this month, and then I'm going to be incorporating some dry fasting. So I'm actually dry fasting today. I might extend that for a few days. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, if you'd like to join me in that, you're more than welcome to. And yeah, the more that we can take health and be responsible for what we consume, and get away from these experts and doctors and whatever else trying to tell us what is best for our bodies, and truly take ownership of that process, the more that we can step into our divinity of who we are, which we're children of God. We're this perfect representation, this creative being that's designed to maximize its creative potential, and then just go out into the world and create as we see fit, all while causing no harm, while operating within those karmic natural laws. So yeah, thank you both for a fantastic show. It was a pleasure, and thank you everyone else for being here. For anyone tuning in, if you want to go check out, I think Charlie and Colleen just went live not too long ago. I think they're doing a live show right now on their channel, Charlie Freak and the Shire Animal Sanctuary. So I'm gonna hop on over to that after this one. But yeah, I love you guys. I love you all, and thank you for being here. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys. Much love.